What's up everyone, my name is Gods, and I will be going over Artemis, the goddess of the hunt today. So let's start off with the overview. So it says here that her difficulty is hard. Now I wouldn't necessarily disagree with this, but when you get more talented as an ADC and become aware and kind of understand the god, she does become quite easy. But something I really disagree with that Smite does is actually put her on the store for less than what she should be. Most gods are 5,500 favor, and on the store she's actually only about 500 favor. So I'm not sure why they did that, but if you do plan on picking her up, you can actually get her for free. So basically you go to the Twitter page of Smite, which is Smite Game, get the promotion code, and you put it into your Smite landing page, and suddenly look what you have: a free skin and free Artemis. So that just saves you 500 favor and whatever you would for how much ever a reskin costs, probably 9,000 favor, and you get that for free. Not bad. Next, let's talk about her pros. So it says that she has high single target damage, and yes, I would definitely agree with this. And you could not set this up unless you had high CC. So they forget to mention that on the pros, you know, kind of forgivable. And that will be definitely in her abilities. She has roots, stuns, slows, everything. So talking about her abilities, let's jump right in. First, we have her passive called Still Target. Artemis gains a critical strike chance buff on each successful hit. So this is a buff that applies to Artemis herself. She has 3 stacks, and each stack is 5% critical chance. So if you think about it, criticals do about 2 times the regular auto attack damage. So when you do, let's say 30 damage, all of a sudden you're doing 60 damage. So let's say it's the difference between 1, getting the kill, and 2, being killed. So that's how you should take Still Target, her passive. You should definitely take it seriously and try landing those autos, especially early game. You'll want to land those autos as frequently as possible to get the full use of Still Target. And yeah, because late game it will fall off, I tell you, because critical strike does not become as important. Like 15% is just nothing. Once you finish your build, you'll be hitting 50% every time. So 15% is not much compared to 50. So just keep that in mind. It kind of falls off. Her 1 is called Transgressor's Fate. Now this is a ground target deployable, and they are traps basically. So Artemis places a trap on the ground. Enemy gods coming within 5 units of her trap activate them, rooting and crippling the enemy god, preventing movement of abilities, and dealing damage every second for 3 seconds. So enemy gods like on her, Shablanke, they can't use their abilities anymore that will allow them to get away from Artemis. You could still use something like a movement speed buff, but you won't be able to move anywhere for 3 seconds, so you're kind of wasting that. You gotta kind of pop beads, or if you have some kind of CC immunity, definitely use that on her traps here. So let's take a look at the damage. Not very significant. At max rank it does 85 damage, plus 30% of your physical power, but if you're running away and you happen to run into an Artemis trap, let's say you only have 200 health left, this is doing damage every second for 3 seconds. That is 85 times 3. That is doing over 200 damage, and you will see your life deplete before your eyes. So definitely be careful of them, especially when you're running away with less than 200 health. And yeah, you know, as an Artemis, you can just place them in the entrances of the jungle so that you could prevent ganks, kind of, and yeah, kind of keep yourself safe that way, so you might not have to have the presence of the jungle, of your jungler or your support all the time. Of course, you won't really necessarily be totally safe. I would definitely want you to use wards instead. So just keep that in mind, that this can be used defensively kind of as a semi-ward I use semi because it's not as, like, it doesn't show up on the map like AMC's beehives. So just keep that in mind. And this will be used mostly in conjunction with Vengeful Assault. So if an enemy god does manage to fall into Transgressor's Fate, definitely pop your Vengeful Assault and just belt out those autos as much as you can, because at rank 1 you already have your 35% attack speed steroid. And coupling with that is your passive, which gives you plus 5% critical chance on each hit up to 3. So that's 15%, and then you're hitting them constantly because they're still target for about 3 seconds. So, or I'm sorry, 2 seconds. So definitely helps out. And then if you have to finish them off, use your 3, but we'll get into that. So Artemis attacks at a furious pace, increasing her attack and movement speed significantly. So if you can read the tooltip there, and I hope you can, this is a double steroid. You would use this in conjunction with, obviously, Transgressor's Fate and your ultimate. This can be an escape because of the added movement speed, but it can also be used very, very aggressively, and that is where we'll probably want it. You'll want to level this up to max rank right after your 3, which is your lane clear. This will give you 75% attack speed at max rank, and will be a duration of 5 seconds, which is huge, especially when you're trying to get away. So, suppress the insolent. Artemis fires a volley into a ground target, suppressing all of her enemies. Enemies caught within the volley are damaged and are slowed. The damage is up to 280 plus 40% of your physical power. Not the greatest damaging ability, but definitely good for harass because of that large AoE. You can hit the minions as well as hitting the enemy gods if they're not careful enough. And it also slows them for 25% at rank 1, so that is very, very good, especially when you want to secure a kill and you just can't get in range. Keep in mind that the circle is quite small, so for a lane clear kind of ability, not the best, but you could definitely work that out to try to hit all of them, and I'll explain that later in jungle practice. Lastly, we have Caledonian Boar, which is her ult. So Artemis summons the great Caledonian Boar on her enemies, doing damage to the nearest enemy god and stunning them and itself. The boar is immune until he hits the first god and then continues to charge other gods for its lifetime. Artemis is also immune to crowd control for 3 seconds. So this is a huge target indicator, and it's a big radius kind of thing, but it does have a single pie in the middle right in front of Artemis that helps her kind of target who she wants, you know, for that priority stun. And it does up to 450 damage with a stun of 1.5 seconds, so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for the high stun that gives you enough time to put down Transgressor's Fate so that they get stunned in the same spot for 1.5 seconds, and then an extra 2 seconds, so that gives you 3.5 seconds of just belting out those auto attacks without the use of beads, of course. And the board can go from one god to the next god to the next god to the next god, and that's up to 5, and it can't go back to the same god, obviously. So that is a huge advantage in team fights. It gives her a huge team fight presence and really kind of scatters the enemy team because they don't want to get hit by the Caledonian Boar because it does massive damage. And if you've ever played against an Artemis, you'll know that it does great damage. So with that, let's hop right into the jungle practice and choose our Artemis here.
Artemis. The hunt begins.
So starting as Artemis, you'll want to have your Bluestone Pendant, Tier 1 of Devour's Gauntlets, and 1 Healing Potion. The standards start. And by late game, your build should look a little something like this. So you'll have the Devour's Gauntlets, the Ninja Tabby, Igavol, Executioner, Rage, and Deathbringer. Now what this does is, 1, gives you the physical lifesteal that you want, so that you can stay in fights longer, plus the physical power, which is a nice added-on bonus. 2, the Ninja Tabbies for the attack speed and the physical power, plus the movement speed, of course. Ichabod, which gives you the plus 30% attack speed and the plus 10 physical penetration, which is great for boxing. Next is the Executioner, which gives you plus 30 physical power, plus 25% attack speed, which is basically like, kind of like Ichabod, but it does, I think this is a much better item than Ichabod. However, Ichabod is much more cost efficient, so definitely keep Executioner in your build, especially when you're an ADC. Last but not least, you have Rage and Deathbringer. So Rage gives you more chance to critically strike, and Deathbringer just makes your critical strikes do that much more. So instead of doing 200% of your base damage, it does 250%. So you could crit up to like 700 damage, something crazy like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and get up to level 5 so I can show you all the abilities. And by the time you're level 5, you'll want to be about, well, actually you'll still be in lane, so you'll be like this. So we're in lane here. Let's just pretend our lane partner has already gone back to base to buy his or her stuff, and we're gonna be up here waiting for the minions, and we're gonna be pushing them back, grouping them, and then we'll hit all of them. I believe I missed the first minion, I think, and that's not good for business, but, and then we're just gonna wait for him. So that's kind of what you want to do as an Artemis, is just keep hitting them, grouping them together, and then once they're all kind of clustered in together, then hit them with your 3 so that they all take the damage. Start picking them off one by one to get the stacks online. I'm just going to show this one more time before I return to base. So again, we're just waiting for the minions. Once the minions come out, you start hitting them so that they kind of bunch together. Once they bunch together, boom, hit your 3 on them and they all get hit. Great ability. I love her kit. One of the best hunter kits, I believe, around. Only lacking in an escape. So
this gets to the point.
So let's go ahead and get our late game build and try some stuff out with the raw. So the ability order I usually run is put everything into my 3, and then at level, I believe it's 9 or 10, you get the boar, then you finish off that, and then you start leveling up this, get the boar again, you get that, and then level up your ult, and then keep leveling up your 1 until the end, that you could get your ult at max. So the order is 3, 2, 1, ult. So just a demo here, I'm going to be attacking the raw. See, I'm doing pretty good damage. Looking at the combat log, I am just killing it, to say the least. 200 damage almost consistently, and the critical hit for 555. Not bad. So now that you've kind of seen, oh, okay. So let's say this raw is kind of stunned out here. I'm just gonna put down that, and then it grabs him into it, and he's still, and then just opens him up for so much. At like the amount of pressure that your traps give is just insane. It's either one, you deal with the damage that Artemis is putting on you, or 2, you pop your beads, and then that just sets you up for someone else to kill you. So either way, you're almost dead, especially if this lands during a team fight or a 1v1 scenario. So this is what the target order looks like for the Caledonian Boar. and as you can see, it's quite wide, almost reaches the 70 unit mark all the way around. But most of all, you can see this little pie slice right there, and what this does is it prioritizes the enemies that it will hit. So let's just say that there's obviously the raw bot, which is right at the end of the indicator, and then there's a raw bot right next to us right here. And the boar will actually take priority to hit the raw instead of the raw next to us here, because of the pie slice. And this was done because people were complaining about the lack of obedience, let's say, that the boar has, and trying to have like the priority, right? Because you'll definitely want to hit someone, but you know, just something that they changed to help the quality of life on Artemis. So let's just go ahead and use it. So what you'll want to do is use the boar, and as soon as the boar hits, you'll want to put down your trap, and then use your 2 steroid, and then just keep on auto attacking until they're dead, which won't take long at all. So let's go ahead, and I use my ultimate, put the trap down, put the attack speed buff, and he's dead before I could finish speaking. That is awesome. Just normally, she could do amazing amounts of damage. Of course, this raw is not building anything whatsoever, so it won't be as easy as this, but it'll be very close, especially once you finish your Deathbringer. People's health will just start going away because that extra attack speed is just insane. So you go from 1.88 right up to the cap, which is 2.5. You got that annoying little sound for 5 seconds. It's great. So yeah, buy greater sprint, buy greater purification, and usually I'll have sprint right after I finish up executioner to help out and gas pedaling my enemies, and that will just help out you and your team the most, I find. Another interesting thing some people like to do is actually switching out rage here, which increases critical strike chance by 30%. Usually they like selling the rage and actually switching it out with Titan's Bane. So what this does is adds more damage because it gives you the same, is it the same? Yes, the same physical power, but it also gives you extra penetration. So the extra penetration will be huge in fights. The penetration works on fire giants, so you're doing extra damage on the fire giant, you're doing extra damage on the gold fury, you're doing extra damage on the enemy titan, and you're doing extra damage on towers and phoenixes. So I mean, if you want to be a split pusher kind of Artemis, I would definitely go with the Titan's Bane, selling the rage out, but definitely keep the Deathbringer because of that passive, because that passive is just so broken. Hi-Rez needs to get on that and fix it. But yeah, I would definitely try the Titan's Bane path instead of the Rage path. Either way, they're both quite potent, and then by the end of the game you'll be wanting to sell your Ikavul for the Aussie, and having whatever you want from there to help. And this basically just gives you more physical lifesteal. To cap out, let's take a look at the stats right now. You'll have lifesteal of 30, which is base with 25 stacks, but you should be having 75 stacks, so it'll be much higher. And the passive is actually, if you drop below 35% health, you gain an additional 25% physical lifesteal. So right away, you're just kind of seeing the value in this pickup over the Ikavul, which is more of a early game kind of item, where Aussie is more kind of like a late game pickup. So you can see right now, Artemis has a really low base health pool. I think it's worse than AMC. So that's just to compensate for the amount of damage she does. So just keep that in mind. Artemis is one of my favorite ADCs to play, so definitely try her out. She is just absolutely fun. Her kit just blends so well together, everything just works, and she's just a model ADC, really. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it from me. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please drop a like, favorite, and subscribe.